So are we? There
Recording
we go.
in progress.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Dunn County Executive Committee to order and hand the gavel over to Vice Chair Steen as he is in the room and I am some thousands of miles away. Over to you, Derek.
Thank you, Chairman McCullough. Next order of business is call of the roll.
All members of the executive committee are present except for John Calabrese and Randy Prochnow. John Calabrese is here. He showed up. He's appeared.
We sent
Right.
the sheriff for him. We got him.
So,
Okay.
missing member is Randy Prochnow, who is on.
Thank you.
That's right.
Next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the December 13th, 2023 meeting. What is the board's? Supervisor Morehouse moves. Is there a second? Second. Supervisor Zahn seconds. Is there any corrections, additions? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign, motion carried. Next order of business is public comments. I'm not aware of any. Are you aware of any?
No.
Okay. To the best of our ability, we are not aware of any public comments. The next order of business. Excuse me.
Terry Nichols sent us an email, and I'm not sure whether it would count as a public comment for exec or not, but he wanted to bring to the attention of the executive committee that in the matter of people watching all of our various meetings, it would be nice if we used fewer acronyms or explained them a little bit better. I don't have the email handy, but that is the very, very short version of his request. And I think that would be all that I have.
Point well taken, and we shall endeavor to be more plain spoken.
FYI.
After the next order of business is the county manager report. Ms. Corpola?
All right. First thing for next week's meeting, drafted the agenda. Relatively straightforward, a number of things that you'll review today. We do have some people who, recognition of some retirements of people with some longevity. And then did have a request from School Superintendent Joe Zadowski from the Menominee School District to speak to you briefly about the reasoning behind their referendum, which will appear on the April ballot. And then there is a request. Now I suppose I didn't bring it because there is a request.
Go WCA for $1,000.
Yes, but I had the actual request in front of me. So the National Association of Counties has requested through the Wisconsin Counties Association that counties consider using $1,000 of their local assistance and tribal consistency funding, which was $50,000 over it in 2 years, in 2022 and in 2023, towards establishment of and now Andrew's going to come up and tell us what the establishment is, because I will get it wrong. But he has some information from some of the other clerks about what some of the other counties have done.
So the Wisconsin Counties Association is requesting that in addition to the money that is raised over the last 2 years, fiscal year 22 and 23, of which there's $100,000, they're asking for some additional money for the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. It's the National Association of Counties typically will use that to work in the area of public lands, highlighting the need for a stronger financial relationship between the federal government and the counties via that land. It's didn't seem like that would be much of an issue. They're asking for $1,000, but there are several counties in the state of Wisconsin that are not participating in that additional ad. I think the consensus is from the clerks that the counties weren't asked about it and were just expected to do it. And there was no real consultation. The numbers have been coming in. Of the 72 counties, 19 clerks have responded. A majority of them have said no, they're not participating. In counties such as Douglas, Dane, Shawano, Chippewa, they're kind of all across the board, but in size-wise. Several of them are actually taking that just to their finance committees for them to have a discussion about it. It's just a point of background that the clerks wanted it brought up to our executive committees. So that's that. Are there any questions about that?
If I might add, this was part of the WCA leadership meeting on Monday, and they had noted that the $100,000 that came in was largely a result of the committee that they are asking for the voluntary $1,000, essentially 1% remit to. So they are hoping that funding that committee a little bit better will result in more dollars in the future.
So I'm not advocating for it either way. It's just the clerks had brought it up and wanted it discussed at our various county boards.
I don't have a real strong feel either way, but I wanted to add that because that was the part of the WCA discussion of it this week.
Yeah.
So I had not scheduled it for an action item. It certainly can be scheduled for an agenda for an action item. It's not time sensitive. There wasn't a date by which the decision had to be made. Initially, when the request came, I thought it was kind of straightforward and you could say, yes, we would like to do that, or sort of endorse, informally endorse, and $1,000 seemed like a nominal amount of money, but it sounds like it's a bit more not so straightforward in some counties than here. Essentially, they want to establish this public land use center, which I imagine is not necessarily an actual physical building, but a policy kind of group or advocacy kind of group within the National Counties Association. So I don't know how you'd like to proceed. If you'd like me to bring it back as an action item because you have strong druthers about us giving or not giving $1,000 to the National Counties Association for this endeavor, I can bring it back for you to vote on. If you are comfortable with just saying, yes, the $1,000 seems like that's a decent idea and go forth, we can move the money within the current budget. It doesn't need a budget adjustment.
I don't know about anybody else, but it seems like a reasonable amount and a reasonable ask to me. But if people would prefer, I'm perfectly happy to have it like formally on the exec committee agenda for next time, so people have time to think about it.
What is the board's wishes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Kelly. It seems pretty reasonable. It's an insignificant amount of money, but I would hate to, on the other hand, I would hate to foreclose discussion if others wish to have it on this, the way NACO asked, or, whatever.
Can let me just reiterate a little bit. The LATCF money came in, again, in two parts, $50,000 in 2022 and $50,000 in 2023. I wasn't aware of the piece that Kelly was aware of in terms of this group having advocated for that funding, but it came basically without really many strings attached. It was really around additional funding to counties to use as they saw fit for operations. So that's why we've used little tiny pieces of it for things, but largely haven't done much with that money.
Having heard that explanation, what is the board's pleasure regarding this issue? Supervisor Kinnear.
I have a little question first. This $1,000 is basically then for lobbying, to pay for lobby to get some more money.
It's to establish it's a payback to it's a pay to money that goes back to the to NACO to go to this public land center.
I get that, and a fundraising goal of 15 million over 2 years. And they've got almost a third of that. Is this gonna be an annual thing?
No, it's a one-time. It says, I believe it says, I forgot that I included the letter for you. Yes, and it says one time.
Well, you're efficient. You had it right
I
here.
was efficient.
I don't care either way. Sorry.
That's an unusual motion. But I would need a more specific motion to direct me where we're going here.
Well, and it's not scheduled for an action, so it wouldn't need a motion per se. If you don't have strong druthers and you're okay with us sending the $1,000, I just need you to essentially say we don't need it to come back to us for a decision. If you'd like to have more debate about it or would like to weigh in on the fact that you wouldn't want to spend it, then I'll schedule it in for the next meeting for you to discuss and make a formal decision on.
I thought I said basically the same thing in a lot less words, but what's your pleasure here?
I don't think we need to talk about it again.
Okay,
What she said.
so
Yeah.
is that? All right,
Alright.
we're approving it then. Is that a motion?
It's
Don't
not
need
an
a
action
motion. Okay,
item.
we're approving it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, last thing, I just wanted to make note, for roughly the last year, there's been a internal work group who's been working on our, what is called COOP-COG planning, continuity of operations and continuity of government. So really, it's the difference between how you would continue to, continuity of operations is how would you continue to do your work if you couldn't do it in your existing sort of manner because your building or technology or whatever wasn't available to you. And continuity of government is how would you continue to serve the public then that relies on the work that you do. So if we could do if there were a disaster or an unforeseen event and we could all work remotely, that answers the continuity of government or of continuity operations piece. It doesn't answer the continuity of government. How does someone come in and get a marriage license or, get to the register of deeds office or go to court or those sorts of things. So we have a plan that we have that's been in stages of development for many, many years. But one of the things that it was missing was, so each of the departments have their own COOP-COG planning document that says once there's a need for a COOP-COG, what happens? But what we didn't have was the front side of it. How does that really work? So tomorrow morning, we're going to run a little tabletop exercise around the communication piece that the work group has worked on over the last year around if someone comes to this building and it's not usable, then what happens? And so we're going to run that little test, and then the department heads are going to use some time tomorrow morning to work then on their individual department plans. In light of that, if that were the case and we couldn't do business tomorrow, like we usually do business, how would their plans fare and what kind of tweaks and changes do they need to make to those? So it's more just a heads up to you that we do have some planning and that's been in motion on that particular thing. And it's dry and awful as it sounds. It's actually kind of interesting once you get into it and you start to think about all the possible scenarios and how things will happen. So
one quick thing, jumping back to the agenda for county board, for the petitions and memorials, I don't see a memorial for Don Keeter. And I believe that we were planning on having his certificate that.
oh, okay, I will add that.
Thank you, Kelly, for catching that.
Yeah, it's been weighing on my mind.
Okay, so sorry, it brings back that I didn't really finish this agenda. You can all read, but we have reports from the Housing Authority, Transit, and the Fair Board. And then you will hear about the resolutions which are coming forward from the various committees in their committee reports. So, and I will add the recognition of Supervisor Keeter.
If I may,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Chairman.
Supervisor Calabrese.
Yeah, just to clarify, the county manager on the Menominee School referendum is actually going to be on the ballot on February 20th. Not,
It is February, not April.
April 2nd.
Yeah, you're right. It is. Sorry, I misspoke.
No, that's all right.
Thank you, County Manager Purpla. Next order of business is item 6, reports, resolution, and ordinances of the Corning Board from the Executive Committee. A resolution amending County Supervisory Districts 24 and 23, and speaking to this is the County Clerk, Andrew Marcel.
So if you recall, we did 2 annexations this last year in 2023. I don't know that we necessarily need to call it the city takeover of town lands, but that's what they're doing. They're just taking a part of the town of Red Cedar and transferring it into the city of Menominee. If you're familiar with the kind of industrial park, this is the north part of the industrial park that is just to the northeast of Cardinal Glass. So there's some real estate there that they want for potential development, but the development wants to be part of city water and sewer. So they're annexing it from the town of Red Cedar to the city of Menominee. This is mostly a procedural thing to make sure that our maps are correct when we have elections and that everyone is in the right spot. There are no individuals living in this area, but that's just one of the things to know. Any questions? Okay.
Have to have a motion to approve this or not? All right. I would entertain a motion reflecting this.
I'll second.
Supervisor Morehouse beat the boy wonder. She's got the motion and Zahn's got the second. Supervisor Zahn. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
So, Corporation Counsel Nick Lang had a comment. Do you want to fill them in on that? It was interesting.
One of the aspects of the annexation, because it because it shifts area from one supervisory district to another it shifts without changing the supervisory district. It would be necessary for the municipal clerks to order and publish ballots for these small sections, even though there are no residents, but state law would require ballots to be published. So that's another good reason to do this. That's all. I just making a comment.
Thank you, Corp Counsel, for the information.
Yeah.
Moving on, number 7, review of reports, resolutions, and ordinances coming to the county board from the standing committees. A, Committee on Administration. A1, resolution approving out-of-class pay for ERP. Speaking on the resolution, Supervisor Hedlund.
Sorry, glad to. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a resolution affecting the fact that we are in the process, as you all know, of replacing an ERP system that we now have, SAP, with either a revised vision of that or something new. And so there's been an establishment of a internal committee or work group to move this forward. And there is a group of people who are part of the public health department who have some expertise in this area and would be very helpful. In the meantime, we're going to expect them to do some other things besides their normal work and to act as in a leadership role for this group. So we're recommending that they be given an additional amount of reimbursement for their time. And that total amount for those three people will be around $19,143 in 2024. And as is noted in the resolution, it will be absorbed by the budget and we will not require an amended budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Headland. Corp Counsel, do we need a motion on this? Okay,
I'm sorry, this is just a committee report to the executive committee of the action that they've taken.
thank you. Next is A2, Ordinance Amendment, Chapter 5, Assistant County Manager, first reading.
Going from memory here, the part of the budget for 2024 included a work assignment for an assistant county manager. So this is not a position that was created. It's anticipated to be an additional work assignment for a senior management staff employee who will, at the direction of the county manager, fulfill some of the responsibilities of that office. It's like meetings or policy development, that kind of thing. So this creates the work assignment and gives some little definition to it. It addresses the appointment process. And once this is passed, or up to this point, county ordinance has the corporation council designated as the substitute county manager if the county manager is not available. So that language is taken out, and it creates a succession scenario where the assistant county manager would be, would be the first person to step in and assume responsibilities in the instance of a vacancy in the county manager position. But ultimately, it vests the authority for long-term appointment to that office to the county board. So there's if there's an immediate need, there's succession in place there, and then the county board can address what it would like to do for a long-term scenario if that comes up. In 2022, I served as the acting county manager for several months. Prior to that, I spent maybe 15 to 20 minutes over a 10-year period doing it. And it was usually signing something that had to go out in the mail today. And so it's not something that you would expect to be coming up frequently. And so generally speaking, if someone has the ability to step in and do the stuff that needs to get done, it would be like a vacation. Like if Chris decided to go hiking in the Rocky Mountains and she didn't have cell phone reception there, maybe something needed to be acted on right away. So anyway, there's succession for short term, there's succession for longer term that vests back again with the county board. And then I think that's really it.
thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Next is A3, Resolution Amending Employee Handbook, Vacation. Would you like to address that, Supervisor Headland?
Yes, and I'm actually going to defer that to our Director of Personnel if I could, and she'll give us a professional explanation.
Good evening. Okay, so as it is outlined within the background information on the resolution, in 2022, the vacation policy was amended to allow department heads the ability to offer a bank of vacation upfront to new hires. This was in an effort to boost recruitment efforts and during a challenging time in the labor market, which we are still experiencing. But upon further review, and now after being under that updated policy for over a year, we have realized the need to add a provision to that updated policy to propose that that initial bank of vacation that may be offered to a new hire not be subject to the payout process if that person were to leave employment within the first year. So this is really kind of just like a cleanup after the fact of that updated policy in 2022, and in our opinion, the best interest of the county to kind of mitigate any additional funds that would have to otherwise be paid out if the employee were to leave the county in good standing. And so that is the first update. Any questions on that piece specifically? Okay, so moving on, there is an additional update with regard to the vacation accrual maximum. So currently, as the policy is written, the maximum amount of hours that somebody can have accrue in their bank is, and bear with me, the applicable accrual rate multiplied by 4,160 hours. So again, it depends on what the maximum is, or the applicable accrual rate dictates what the maximum bank can be. So it's not a static number that I could give you. But in certain departments, and specifically in 24/7 operations, like the 911 center, where it's been there's been very short staffing and difficult to allow and approve vacation requests, there are a handful of employees that have reached their maximum accrual rate and essentially now are kind of forfeiting that accrual that they would otherwise receive at no fault of their own, right? So we are requesting to add a provision to the vacation policy to allow that employee and their department head to request a payout of that otherwise lost accrual, and giving the county manager the authority to approve that. And this is with the understanding that it's only within periods of time where there's a staffing shortage or an unusual or emergency situation like the pandemic, for example. And this isn't completely new to the county. We did have a temporary provision in place during the pandemic that allowed this, but we've learned that since the expiration of that, it is still a need just due to continued staffing shortages. It is also a part of the consideration of the county manager and discussion with the department head will be any impact to the budget. And if there, wasn't the ability to absorb that additional amount within that fiscal year, then a request for additional funds would be brought forth to the applicable committee and board at that time.
Any questions?
So it would be in the form of a budget adjustment then, kind of?
If there were a need for additional funds to cover this sort of a payout, I mean, we're not expecting, the intention is not for it to be a regular
I understand,
occurrence.
but it's handled the same way, right?
And that would
Yeah,
be,
okay.
Whatever means were available, likely a budget adjustment or contingency fund
Contingency.
request.
Thank you.
No problem.
And
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add to that, first I experienced this in our management at Walmart Distribution Center when, again, staff shortages and COVID things and so forth all came about. They did a similar thing. Unfortunately, the language was such that people who came in and requested a week or maybe 2 weeks, I'm going to go, on an extended vacation, and then decided they didn't need to, were given a 2-week payout because that's what you requested. And so, the language locked them into something also that nobody thaw and I think this language is needed to, there's still an issue there and we need to address it and make sure that people aren't forfeiting, I mean, we want to protect our employees from, they've earned that time and if they can't take it, then we need to pay them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the explanations. The A4, resolution approving collective bargaining agreement.
I'm sorry, request that we remove that. At this time, we do not have the agreement presentable through the Committee of Administration at this point.
So we'll strike that, I guess. We'll just strike that A4. Yeah. Uh, 7B, Legislative Committee, 2024 Dunn County Legislative Agenda. We took care of that. So moving on. 7C, Planning Resource Development Resolution on Public Participation Plan. Speaking to it, Supervisor Quinn.
Yeah, well, real quick. So the committee in 2024, the committee will be doing a full review and staff will be doing a full review of the county comprehensive plan. Statutes require that we have in place a formal public plan for encouraging public participation in various stages of that. We see this as something that's going to be happening over the course of the year. So this staff put together this really ambitious plan for getting out to people and having some real discussions about what we want our county to be like going forward. So this is the plan we're offering.
Thank you, Supervisor Quinn. Next order of business is reports from standing committees. And we'll start with Ms. Vogel, if you'd like to. Supervisor Vogel.
Thank you. So the Facilities Committee met December 13th at 6 p.m. And we had a report from the Fair Board, which they had a really rough year with the heat and the storms. And then Parks and Facilities is operating. I think they're fully staffed now. And then, but our big discussion was the two leases. So the Menominee Youth Hockey Association lease and the Red Cedar Racing lease, because I've heard of them, so we all wanted to take a look at them and figure out what was going on. And there was discussion about camping because that's not included in the youth hockey lease. So from what I understand through some of the discussion was that there was a proposed amendment in 2018, and maybe some of you were on the board, but it didn't pass for the youth hockey lease. And so if we're going to relook at this, if anyone has any thoughts or input, like why it didn't pass and what we should be looking at as we talk to hockey and the old lease, because the current lease actually has some kind of rent for space we couldn't use with the new facility, but now we don't really need that rent because we can use the whole facility, but that was never taken out of. So there's actually lease or rent that hasn't been paid for quite a while. So I think this lease needs to be amended. But if anyone has any thoughts on, what kind of caused issues or what we need to be looking at. I know the camping is one thing, but any other thoughts?
I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I remember a lot of quite agitated hockey parents coming in for public comment. And I think that may have part have been a misunderstanding, but I remember the meeting because it was, I think the public comment probably ran 35 minutes, 40 minutes on the topic. I might know who to talk about. I'm gonna make myself a note and see if I can get you some more information on that.
Because, yeah, if we can make this smoother and we can get both parties involved and figure out what the issues were, then hopefully we can make it a little more seamless.
Yeah, I believe that the meeting my wife is in right now, she's chatting with the wife of the person who was head of the youth hockey league at the time. So I think
Okay.
I know who to ask.
Okay. And then the Red Cedar Racing lease goes through 2024. So that's one we need to think about as well. So that took up the majority of our meeting. And so I'm trying to figure out how to proceed with these things. And so our next meeting is Wednesday, January 24th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Supervisor Vogel, and I hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Supervisor Headland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee administration met on the 28th of December between the holidays. Just had a quorum, but we did. And so we got our business done. We did have a fair amount of discussion on vouchers. We had a number of months of vouchers to go through. All the issues were either resolved on that date or have since been resolved by our county manager. And most of those issues are committee members questioning, sometimes there's a new vendor. Sometimes some of these vendor names don't really pertain to what we see the expense matching up to, but companies own other companies and sometimes that becomes a very good solid explanation. The other issue is sometimes something is unusual, that shows up that we don't normally see. For instance, a couple months ago, we had a repair of over $10,000 to a patrol car at the Ford dealership here. That threw up a red flag. What's that all about? Well, at about 82,000 miles or something like that, the engine in that vehicle ate itself up and required a total replacement. No help from Ford. And so hopefully in the future, we don't have many more of those engines failing or we purchase them. Beyond that, all of the issues that we talked about previously with the ordinance, with pertaining to an assistant county manager, along with the resolutions for audit class pay and such, were the basic of our meeting. We will be meeting again the fourth Thursday of this month, which should be the 25th. And that'll be at 3 o'clock here in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Headland. Supervisor Morehouse?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also last met on December 28th. We always follow admin. We had two fairly lengthy staff reports, both quite interesting. We heard from Lori Radcliffe, who's the supervisor of the Family and Children's Services, talk about family treatment court. We learned a little bit about the derivation of the family treatment court and heard quite a bit about it's really quite without an extensive evaluation, but it's really quite astounding record of eliminating the termination of parental rights in a court and peer and very much supported set of services for families with substance abuse issues and child protection issues. Was started in 2019 and apparently is working quite well. We also heard from Jeff Robb, who is the Public Health Environmental Services Manager. About a year ago, we made some changes to the fee structure that public health charges for tattoo parlors, restaurants, food environments, and so on. And agreed with the staff to make a commitment to do some time tracking so that, obviously in the long term, a goal of reducing our reliance on levy, to do time tracking of staff as they do inspections and pre-planning and other kinds of assessments with businesses. Obviously, there is also a commitment to be user friendly and approachable for businesses. We will again look at the fee structure and approve the fee structure when we meet again on January 25th. This is something by statute that the Health and Human Services Board does, and it does not come to the county board. I will, however, next month bring the fee structure to executive committee so that you can have a look at it. We had good reports as usual from all of our fabulous managers. Public Health is doing has been working on a community health assessment. Survey work is done, and now there are a series of meetings to essentially validate those findings, to get feedback from a variety of sources about, are these 5 issues identified in the survey still the 5 issues that the county wishes to focus on. They are returning some money to the general fund. We had a great report from Paula at DHS as well. Found out that there is finally some additional money for ADRC that has come in, and a fairly substantial amount of money is being returned to the general fund, although, it takes DHS a long time to get bills in and approved. And so again, we're meeting on the 25th, and I will have to confess that I watched the video of that meeting today. And it's always sort of interesting to look at various aspects of one's committee, but I accepted a motion to approve the minutes, and I accepted a second to approve the minutes. I asked for additions and corrections, and I moved right on. We didn't vote on them. Like, oops, I guess that has to go back. And I've had words with my vice chair about reminding me when I forget stuff. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Morales. I would just like to comment on a lot of the work that the Human Service Department does. Sometimes it's money spent up front, but I think we've saved an appreciable amount of money on the other end by being proactive and addressing these problems and straightening these problems out and helping these families. And in the end, it saves us a lot of money on the other end, law enforcement, child support, all this other stuff. So I just want to make a comment on that. I don't know how much the general public realizes that, but Human Service is a very complicated department, and it's a very complicated interaction between the federal and state government and our department on reimbursements and on that type of thing. I've been on it about 15 years, and I'm getting close, I think, to understand it. Supervisor Kinnear?
Well, thank you. I will try to make this less complicated for you here. So for the neighbors of Dunn County, we last met and we opened up the day for these 2 committees on the 25th. And we welcomed 2 new members to the, Tim Lenow came on and Barb Lyon came on because of Don Keeter's death, and Larry Bjork was transferred. And because of that, Carmen gave a really nice summary of what the neighbors does and the different things we needed to know. And I didn't know a lot of it again, because as you said, it takes a lot of years. So that was real good. COVID has increased the impact on the staff. So there's more staff hours missed, but not on the residents. They've done really well. Let's see, interesting fact, over 70% of the people there at the neighbors have Medicaid as their payer versus private insurance or private pay or Medicare or veterans. And it used to be a bad deal, but now it's good. The Medicaid is increased enough, so it's working out well. And finally, the state approved for us to have a CNA course offered in the building. And we hope that the company that is hired will be able to get some people in there. They already have the teachers, but, and maybe some of those CNAs will stay. And that's the whole hope. And if they don't, nothing lost. And let's see, and finally, we hope to get a resident bus mid-February. And when I look at some of the difficulties that townships are having getting trucks 1, 2, 3 years down the road, we're real fortunate to perhaps have this. Our next meeting, we will once again lead off on January 25th for you guys.
Bring treats.
We'll leave them over there. Okay, and that's the report for the neighbors.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Zahn?
The Community Resources and Tourism Committee met yesterday. I always appreciate the fact that we meet the day before this meeting, so I don't have to really kind of have a hard time remembering what we talked about. Got an interesting update from Kristen, the Area Extension Director, in that Addison Vang has left Extension. He's moved on to a position with the state in a kind of a 2-year trial position. So his position is no longer filled, and they're currently reevaluating that community food services kind of educator position, because when it was first created, there was kind of more of a need of it, and now that the 3 counties, Eau Claire, Chippewa, and Dunn, are saying that that's not, there's probably a better use of that funding. So they're kind of evaluating where they want to take that position and where they want to go, and whether it's going to be more focused on entrepreneurship or economic development and what have you. I just, my opinion from the meeting is that it's going to be challenging to get all 3 counties to agree on one sort of focus on that. So if you guys have any opinions, Kristen would take your feedback or suggestions on that. So in addition to that, our fine county manager told us about the current economic development efforts with getting a kind of a cooperative. Chris, what is the term you guys kind of came up with who would be head of economic development, like a director of economic development that would be housed at Stout, but and would get a benefits package through Stout, but would also get funding from the city and the county. And this would be a way to kind of share a lot of that responsibility. And I think it sounds like it's a good way to go. So that's moving right along. Broadband, the very first inaugural meeting of the Broadband Task Force is tomorrow afternoon at 1. So if you have not attended enough meetings this week, you are welcome to join us. It will be hybrid because the task force members are scattered all over, and that was kind of one of the considerations, was making the meeting hybrid. So we're going to mostly talk about just getting everybody's schedules and introducing everybody, and then also talking about the BEAD planning challenge process, where they have determined mapping for where communities have broadband access, and they want those challenges to basically be submitted within the next 30 days or so of that. So that's kind of going to be our primary focus. And our next meeting is Tuesday, February 13th, right here in this room.
Thank you, Supervisor Zahn. Pinch hitting for Randy Prock now is Dustin Bender, the county highway super duper. Will you?
He's right there.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Yeah, so the highway committee met this morning at 8:15 a.m. So we discussed our lack of winter that we've had thus far, which is good. I'm very supportive of it, but our employees are not. They want more money in their pocket, unfortunately. Dan, our shop superintendent, presented the cost savings in our fuel in particular from 2022 to 2023 during the month of November and December. We had a cost savings of approximately $77,000. So that just shows you when we're not plowing snow, we're burning less fuel. So that's always a good thing. So we can put that money towards other maintenance items. So like I said, that's a good thing. We discussed our County Road B project. We finally got the railroad agreements all signed and finalized. We are waiting for a little parcel of property that we had to pay the railroad for to construct the project. That we're just waiting for the check to be cut with finance staff. So once we get that done, everything's finalized. We're anticipating both projects to start probably May 1st of 2024, weather permitting. So like I said, that's a good thing. As I noted before, I would just highly recommend anybody stay off of County Road B when construction's happening, because it's not going to be fun. So we have been receiving some of the equipment that we purchased in 2023. We are still waiting for 3 out of the 4 plow trucks that we ordered in 2023. One of them is in production to get all the plow equipment on currently, and we're anticipating that to be done in February. The other 3 are kind of in limbo right now and waiting for them to get on the lot for fabrication. So as of right now, we might be seeing a number of trucks in 2024 that may be just sitting there waiting for fabrication. So other than that, our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. For all those that are.
Yes, Miss Supervisor Kinnear.
Compliments late are still okay, I hope, but I've talked to a couple different people that live out on Highway B, and when it was redone, they were very complimentary of the way they were treated with the flag people and everybody else. And they said they were friendly and everything else, and they thought did a wonderful job of directing traffic.
Excellent.
Dustin, I just have a question on the B project. Are you intending to have one lane open both ways at all times, or how is that going to be approached?
Yes, it will be bi-directional lane closures. So southbound will be shut down, and then all single lanes going northbound. Okay. There is a portion where the railroad will have to do their work because the whole railroad's getting redone as well. We will be shutting County Road B down for approximately a month. And then detoured on 650th through Rusk on County Road E, okay. Just to make that transition so they can get their work done and out of there and a lot safer and cleaner. Right. So,
thank you very much.
Yep.
Supervisor Quinn.
Thank you. So real short, we had our last meeting on December 20th. We skipped our regular January 6th meeting. And we meet again next Wednesday on January 20th. Really dealt with staff reports, monthly staff reports from each of the divisions. Approved the public participation plan that'll come before the board next week. Did a review of basic language on the accessory dwelling unit zoning revision, and hopefully on next week, we will have a review of the draft language of the accessory dwelling unit ordinance. So that's about it.
Thank you, Supervisor Quinn. Last but not least, Supervisor Calabrese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have you beat in brevity, Supervisor Quinn. The Judiciary and Law Committee did not meet since the last executive committee. We took December off. There was nothing actionable that needed our attention, and I'm told that department heads and committee members were appreciative. And we meet in this room on January 22nd at 4:30.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, a question?
Yes, Supervisor Headland.
For our county manager on the housing task force, our West Cap been in contact with you about some future plans for some low rental housing? Okay.
Yes, actually, Paula Winter from DHS has been working with them on getting us a opportunity to kind of collaborate around that grant funding and potential partnerships.
We had our meeting last Monday or Monday night, yes. And for West Cap, and that came up, and it sounds pretty positive. There we would be one of two recipients, hopefully, of building some small low cost housing units, but still a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments from the committees that I've overlooked?
Just one quick note, Ann, I put in a request with the appropriate people to see if I can get that information for you. That was what I scampered off, was stuck my head into the other less formal meeting.
Thanks, Kelly. Next order of business is the next meeting date, February 7th, 2024 at 3:30. Is that right or wrong? I'm just reading the paper here.
Sounds right to me.
All right, then, like I said, the next meeting date, February 14th, 2024 at 3:30.
Huh?
Kelly, black mark. All right.
Yep, there we go.
Unless there's some other comments or other business to be brought before us, we've concluded our business. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Stay healthy.